Hey, good morning. This is Paris Denard. I just proudly voted early for the entire GOP ticket here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I voted for Glenn Youngkin at the top of the ticket because I believe Glenn Youngkin has the policies, the plans to move Virginia forward, especially for the black community. And so if you have not voted, go to vote.gop, find out where you can vote, and vote for Glenn Youngkin and the entire Republican ticket.
The Hampton Roads Black Caucus is honored to, and I represent the members of the Black Caucus and its members, is honored to endorse Glenn Youngkin.
All right, guys, so as you can see there, that is the Hampton Roads Black Caucus endorsing GOP candidate for governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, over Democrat candidate Terry McAuliffe, right? And that is a Democrat's worst nightmare. They hate to see that, right? They hate to see black people endorsing a Republican. Okay, they hate it. They hate it. And to the Democrats, desperate times call for desperate measures, as this race is tight, right? It is tight. It's kind of like a coin flip at this point, right? Again, they got desperate. And they're so desperate that they're rolling out Kamala Harris, right? Kamala Harris in a pre-recorded video aimed at black churches to get them to go out there and vote for a Democrat. So yeah, Kamala is campaigning to churches, and it sounds like these churches are essentially endorsing Kamala Harris as they're playing this video, right? This political advertisement for a candidate in their churches doing service, right? Which again, sounds very, very illegal. But before we get into that, let's watch the video of Kamala. And I promise you guys, I'm not going to subject you to it for too long, okay? It's terrible to get through, but I just want you guys to see a little bit of what she's saying. Take a look.
Greetings, everyone. So when I was growing up, we sang in the choir at Oakland's 23rd Avenue Church of God. We sang hymns about how faith combined with determination will see us through difficult times. And we were taught that it was our sacred responsibility to raise our voice and lift up the voices of our community. One of the most significant ways I believe that we can each use our voice is through our vote. So Virginians, you have the opportunity now to raise your voice through your vote, because it's election time. As you know, this is an important election coming up on Tuesday, November 2nd, and early voting is already underway. I believe that my friend Terry McAuliffe is the leader Virginia needs at this moment. Terry McAuliffe has a long track record of getting things done for the people of Virginia. When he was governor, in the wake of the recession, you'll remember, he brought 200,000 jobs to Virginia. Incomes went up and unemployment went down in every city and county in the state. And now, Terry McAuliffe is stepping up again with a clear vision about how to rebuild Virginia's economy for the future. To raise the minimum wage, to make health care more affordable, to give every child a world-class education. Virginians, you deserve a leader who has a vision of what is possible and the experience to realize that vision. Terry McAuliffe is that leader.
All right, guys. So when I first read this story and I first saw this video, the first thing that came to my mind was, is Kamala even a Christian? Right? Is Kamala even a Christian? Because I know they're rolling out a black woman to try to go get black women to vote, and there are plenty of those in the black church. But are they rolling out a Christian trying to get a Christian to vote? That literally was the question in my head, and I went and looked up what religion Kamala was, and it sounds to me like she's Christian, but it also sounded to me like she might be Hindu, she might be Jewish, right? She's a shapeshifter, not just in her race, right? In which sometimes she's, black, sometimes she's Jamaican, sometimes she's Indian. She might be a shapeshifter in her religion too, because sometimes she's Christian, sometimes she's Jewish, sometimes she's Hindu, right? So I really don't know, but it sounds like she is a Christian. Most of the time, though, when politicians are Christians, they're very vocal about it because they're trying to get votes, right? That identity politics. They're trying to get votes, okay? But Kamala doesn't seem to be using that strategy too much. So that's why I was surprised to see this, okay? But it is obvious this ad was targeted towards churches, and it's just flat out political speech because she's explicitly endorsing a candidate, and she's also not talking about political issues from a moral or religious perspective, okay? She's just flat out being political. Vote for this guy. Do you guys notice how Kamala at the beginning, she said, we sang, right? We sang.
We sang in the choir.
When you should say we sung, but she said sang. She had to throw a little ang on it. You know what I'm saying? Put a little seasoning on it. Okay? That's what the black folks say, right? Put a little seasoning on it. Because she knew where this video was going. She knew what the purpose of this video was. The White House clearly made this video to be played in churches. Like that's what they made it for. But on to the actual legality of this. As again, this seems to be a violation of an IRS code. You know, that thing that we use to enforce certain tax provisions, right? Certain things, you know, the Constitution that we have, in which a lot of people believe that, you know, the founders wanted a separation of church and state. Okay, that thing, right? The Democrats have seemed to forgot about that, right? Or they just don't give a damn because they think they can get away with everything. Because the mainstream media is not going to call them out about it. As we actually have a copy of the IRS code regarding political campaign activity that I want to read to you guys, just so we can see if Kamala Harris is actually violating law here. Because it kind of sounds like she is. Quote, under Internal Revenue Code, all IRC Section 105C3, organizations, including churches and religious organizations, are absolutely prohibited from directly or indirectly participating in or intervening in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for elective public office. Whoop, boy, that's a shut and closed case. That said absolutely prohibited. It ain't say might be prohibited. Absolutely. They use the term absolute. Okay? This is expressly forbidden. Let's read a little bit more here. Contributions to political campaign funds or public statements of position, verbal or written, made by or on behalf of an organization in favor of or in opposition to any candidate for public office clearly violate the prohibition against political campaign activity. Violation of this prohibition may result in denial or revocation of tax exempt status and the imposition of excise tax. All right. I'm saying that kind of sounds to me like she's breaking the law. Okay, so here's the thing. Maybe these churches should have their tax status revoked, right? And you're no longer a 501c3 organization. Okay, you're not a religious institution anymore because you're political. We have a separation of church and state for this very reason, right? I don't think this is a road that we should be walking down here, right? And whether that's Democrat or Republican. The Republicans, let's be real, they play with this too, right? They play with this as well, okay? But it's not as obvious as what Kamala is doing, right? We have the actual vice president doing this. There's a difference here, okay? But I'm just saying, yeah, you shouldn't be doing this. And churches that are participating in this, yes, you should have your tax status at the very least questioned. At the very least. But again, Kamala here is obviously breaking the law. And the question is, who's going to hold her accountable? Is the IRS going to step in and do their job here? Enforce the law? Is the mainstream media actually going to cover this and say, hey, you know what? This is not right. You shouldn't be doing this. You're breaking the law. Because if it was a Republican that did this, obviously they'd be covering it. They'd be covering it all day. But again, the reason why the Democrats feel comfortable doing this is because they know that the mainstream media is not going to say anything about it. They know they're not going to cover it. Okay, this was acquired by CNN. And I haven't seen CNN even talk about it. Haven't seen it. Now, again, I could be wrong. They may have had a little segment on it, but it ain't 24/7 news like it would be if it was a Republican doing this. Again, we have a state of Virginia that's a swing state. That, you know, the governor race there's pretty important. It could be a sign of what's to come in 2022. If a Republican gets very, very close to winning this state, that I believe went blue during the last election, and a Republican can get very close to flipping it, that may show that the tide is changing, that the GOP has a good chance of winning back the House and maybe even the Senate come 2022. So this has implications for the future. So this is an important story to cover if Kamala is conducting illegal campaign activity. But I'm not going to hold my breath that anything is to be done about this or that the IRS is actually going to enforce their tax code here. But it is funny because it shows how desperate they are to get black people to get out and vote. Apparently the black vote is going to be important in Virginia. We will see. Okay, we will see. But with, the Black Caucus, Hampton Roads Black Caucus, that's a big group, right? I believe they've never endorsed a Republican before. So the thing is that you got, some black people, according to some polls, according to some things I've been seeing, black folks ain't really feeling Biden like that, right? They ain't really feeling him like that. So it just goes to show how desperate Democrats are to get black people to vote. And of course, they're going to target the black church. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.